What's up, guys? Welcome to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at Palantir stock, ticker symbol PLTR, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Tuesday, March 19th. Alright guys, Palantir stock here today up 51 cents a share. That's plus 2.17% in regular trading hours. It is down about 19 cents here in the after hours. Listen, as always, take after hours with a grain of salt. If the volume is not meeting or exceeding intraday. Now, of course, that's going to be the case like 99 or more % of the time that it does not meet or exceed intraday. It's very easy to move stocks after hours, so take it with a grain of salt. Let's get started today with our daily ritual, the volume profile analysis here on the 5-minute chart. Now here we're looking to pull out any bias, any sort of hidden bias that is available to us, but is not obvious simply by looking at the movement in stock price. Okay, so of course we need three things: an obvious change in volume that correlates with an obvious change in stock price, but the volume has to be out of context compared to what's typically expected at that particular time of day. So let's go through here and quickly circle the moves that I'm most interested in. I'm interested in this dump and recovery off the open. I'm interested in this downside move and also the recovery that we got kind of late morning today. And then we really got kind of a big upside move and somewhat of a consolidation into the close. Okay, so let's take a look here. Immediately off the open, we can see this is very contextual. We got, one, arguably two, but really one pop in selling volume on that intraday low candle. To me, I know that that's a battle between buyers and sellers since we got a wick on the bottom of that candle, which is going to pump up the volume. So I can kind of scratch that. There's really no bias to be had there, at least in my opinion. Onto that second intraday move, right? This one here, that dump and then recovery, okay? As you guys know, when we see moves like this that are similar in size, where you see a pump and fade or a dump and recovery, where you basically end up net neutral by the end of it, a lot of people assume that that is a net neutral move, that both moves were created equal, and that's certainly not always the case. However, if we look here, this is very contextual. Yes, we got, 7 consecutive green candles? And in terms of consecutive candles, you could argue that there was a bias there. However, in terms of sheer volume, like size of each volume bar, very contextual. So nothing we can pull out of there either, unfortunately. But this last part of the move, we did see an increasing volume and a little bit of consistency with a couple of fades. Listen, this is just about the lowest amount of bias that I could possibly allow to actually point out as something to consider. We did see an increase on this upside move, a little bit of consistency, broken up by a red bar, sure, a couple of lower volume bars, fine. But it was certainly a little bit out of context, just a tad. Okay, and then we saw this small little fade and then upside move, which basically had turned into consolidation throughout the rest of the day, and that ended up being very contextual. So listen, bulls, just the smallest amount of bias, very small, but it's certainly there to the point where I do feel I have to point that out. Let's move on now here, and that was later in the day as we moved up into that consolidation point. Let's move on here to the self-fulfilling prophecy psychological levels that I will be watching heading into tomorrow, Tuesday. If you guys caught the weekend video, we were talking about a lot how a reclaim of this 50 period, that white line here on the 30-minute chart, would be a good thing to see. We struggled for the first half of the day before finally breaking through on a little bit of increasing volume. That's not a bad thing to see. We have yet to see a retest intraday. We are now seeing that in the after hours. So, but again, take after hours with a grain of salt. Bulls, my ideal scenario tomorrow is to see an intraday retest of the 50 period, okay, on any volume since we're already above that, but then a high volume confirmation on a bounce, on a pull away upside on as much volume as possible. Bears, for you guys here tomorrow, ideally, a downside break back through the 50 period on big volume, a low volume retest, and a high volume rejection to confirm. Right, you need a confirmation since that would be an initial break. Bulls were already above there, though I would like to see an intraday retest since we haven't really had that yet with a bounce away on big volume. And of course, bulls, our eyes, on at least on the 30-minute chart in particular, are kind of up toward that 200 period, but understand that is currently about 4% away. All right, moving on now to the 4-hour chart, you can see we currently find ourselves right in between that 50 period, that white line, and the 200 period, that darker gray line there. And listen, we are a bit of a move away from either side of that kind of channel that's being formed here. It's about 6.15% to the downside to that 200 period, and about 5.4, 5.3% to the upside to that 50 period. So being that this video is kind of in the context of day to day, like we're looking ahead to tomorrow, Tuesday, you know, really, the 4-hour chart is not really any more, I would say, contextual than simply looking to get closer to a test of whichever moving average your side needs to claim. For example, I mean, if you're a bull, you just want to move closer, obviously, that is essentially upside to that 50 period, because really the bigger picture on the 4-hour chart is to make a reclaim of that 50 period and claim that as a support level, which we've struggled to do in the recent past. Whereas if you are a bear, that 200 period is really what you would want to reclaim as kind of a ceiling, at least in the near term. But being that it's, you know, 5-6% away to either side, we can't really be looking for that, at least reasonably given Palantir's ATR, average true range, within a single day. So just looking for a move closer to that would obviously be ideal. But at the end of the day, that's very simple. It's up or down. But I just want you to understand the piece, the day-to-day piece in the bigger picture here on the 4-hour chart. Okay. Now, the really contextual chart, if there's one chart that you don't skip, it's always the daily. This paints the clearest image, and I think the image that has the most eyeballs, which is the most relevant of all of them. Now remember here, this is the daily, so it's not going to show after hours movement, but what is the story here tomorrow? It's really simple in my head. Tomorrow is the battle of 24 bucks a share. Okay, because you can see here that we faded 19-20 cents in the after hours. 23.81, we closed at 24 even. Okay, tomorrow's the battle of 24. Bulls, hold 24, get up through, retest, hold it, and maybe use 24 as sort of a trampoline to head up toward what is kind of like the real goal here, right? Which is 25 bucks a share. A reclaim of 25 bucks a share is a really great psychological level to claim if you're a bull here in the near term. 24, you know, it all starts with 24, at least as of right now. Now bears, being that 25 is kind of your near-term enemy, 24 becomes even more important to reject hard since we're right up against there as a test, at least in the very short term. Okay, because your goal in the near term, your equivalent of 25 to a bull, to a bear is kind of that $23 area, which started actually as a technical level and has since turned into a psychological level, which is very common. That typically happens the other way around as well. But the ideal scenario tomorrow, whether you're a bull or a bear, is to spend as much time on your side of 24 as possible. It doesn't need to be a massive 12% day. Just get above or below 24 depending on what your bias is. Okay. And then hold that level and utilize that as either a trampoline or kind of a ceiling rejection to head down or up toward your real target. A bear, 23, a bull, 25. And again, does not necessarily need to happen in a single day, but tomorrow is the battle of 24. Alright guys, now my favorite part of the video, let's take a look here. What was the bias out of the options traders here today as they positioned themselves heading into tomorrow, Tuesday? We had 337,000 total contracts traded. That's a decent sample size. 248,000 of those were calls, and only 88,000 of those were puts. That's a heavy call side bias. And what I'm really interested in here is that 0 to 20 delta range, right? The short-term speculators. Those are the people making, and the funds and the institutions making short-term bets, and we're looking to tomorrow. So what are they saying? 79,000 calls and about 38,500 puts. Heavy call side bias, not only on the overall call per ratio, but also in that short-term speculation delta range. Listen, if you got value out of this video, again, please subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.